Mother loses child at birth, but when she entered the morgue, she caught the doctor. When a struggling mother lost her newborn during delivery, the crushing weight of grief left her desperate for one last moment with her baby in the hospital morgue. But what she discovered there, a supposedly deceased infant lying beside a healthy baby and a doctor's suspicious behavior, would shatter everything she believed about her child's death. This chance encounter would uncover a sinister plot that extended far beyond a simple medical tragedy, testing a mother's love and her determination to reveal the truth. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from today. And if you enjoy stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe. The night was chaotic. As 28-year-old Eloise Carter was wheeled through the hospital's sterile corridors, her labor screams echoed off the walls, drawing concerned looks from patients and visitors alike. Harsh fluorescent lights cast sharp shadows on the paramedics' faces as they rushed her toward the labor and delivery ward. Eloise clutched the sides of the gurney, her knuckles turning white with tension. Each contraction crashed over her like a tidal wave of pain, growing more intense with every moment. She had always envisioned this moment differently, calm, prepared, and with her boyfriend Corey at her side. Instead, she found herself alone, terrified and utterly overwhelmed. As the paramedics burst through the double doors of the labor and delivery unit, Dr. Alan Greaves was already waiting, his face an unreadable mask of calm professionalism. Dr. Greaves's expression was one of professional concern as he quickly assessed the situation, barking orders to the nurses around him. "Get her into room 3, he commanded. "I want fetal monitors set up immediately." "Where's her chart?" A nurse hurried forward with a clipboard, which Dr. Greaves snatched and began scanning rapidly. Eloise tried to focus on his face, searching for reassurance, but another contraction hit, causing her to cry out in agony. "Miss Carter," Dr. Greaves said, his voice cutting through her pain. "I'm Dr. Greaves. We're going to take good care of you and your baby. Just try to breathe through the contractions, okay?" Eloise nodded weakly, struggling to recall the breathing exercises she'd learned in her prenatal classes. It all felt so distant now, lost in the fog of pain and fear. The paramedics efficiently transferred her from the gurney to the hospital bed, their movements smooth and well-practiced. As soon as she was settled, nurses swarmed around her, attaching monitors and checking her vitals. Dr. Greaves turned to the assembled staff. "All right, everyone out except Nurse Olivia," he said firmly. "Here's the updated version." As she scrolled through her missed calls and messages, Eloise's heart clenched at the sight of several from her boyfriend, Corey, and her work colleagues. Each one was asking where she was and if she was okay. The idea of explaining everything felt overwhelming. How could she possibly put into words the joy, fear, pain, and devastating loss she had endured over the past 24 hours? In the end, she sent Corey only a brief message. "Something's happened. I'll explain when you have time to call. I need to talk to you." When a taxi pulled up, Eloise climbed in, her voice sounding strange to her own ears as she gave her home address. As the car pulled away, she leaned her head against the cool glass of the window, watching the city pass by in a blur. Outside, life continued as normal for everyone else, while Eloise's world had been irrevocably changed. She closed her eyes, one hand resting protectively over her now empty womb, the other clutching her phone, which now held the precious cargo of final memories. The taxi soon stopped outside her apartment building. The once familiar facade now seemed strangely alien. As she fumbled with her phone, her trembling fingers completed the payment. Standing on the sidewalk, she felt disconnected from her surroundings, a stranger to her own life. Taking a deep breath, Eloise pushed open the building's heavy glass doors. The faux marble floors and generic potted plants of the lobby felt surreal after the stark sterility of the hospital. The echo of her footsteps accompanied her as she made her way to the elevator. Inside, she caught her reflection in the mirrored wall and startled herself. Her pale face, dark-circled eyes, and limp, tangled hair barely resembled the woman she once knew. When the elevator dinged at her floor, Eloise stepped out, her legs unsteady beneath her. The walk to her apartment door felt endless, every step a monumental effort. Finally inside, she was hit by a deafening silence. Her once cozy space now felt hollow and unrecognizable. Her gaze fell on the corner where she had collapsed in labor the night before, a memory both fresh and impossibly distant, as if it had happened to someone else entirely. Eloise dragged herself into the bedroom, where a new wave of grief overwhelmed her. The sight of the carefully prepared bassinet, its soft blankets and stuffed animals waiting for a baby who would never come, was almost unbearable. Next to it sat her hospital bag, packed weeks ago with hope and excitement. Shaking, she unzipped the bag. Tiny onesies, diapers, and a carefully chosen coming-home outfit stared back at her, each item a fresh reminder of her loss. She couldn't bear to look at it any longer. Further, what an emotionally gripping and intense script. It's filled with suspense, twists, and raw emotions, making it captivating. The narrative weaves together love, betrayal, courage, and resilience beautifully. If you'd like, I can help you polish it further by addressing grammar, flow, or formatting, or provide suggestions to strengthen certain scenes or dialogues. Let me know how you'd like to proceed. The other nurses exchanged glances but complied, filing out of the room along with the paramedics. Only one nurse remained, a young woman with kind eyes and a nervous energy about her. "Are you sure, doctors?" Nurse Olivia asked hesitantly. "This is my first solo shift in the labor room." Dr. Greaves's expression softened slightly. "Don't worry, Olivia. This is your opportunity. Just follow my instructions, and you'll do fine." As the others left, taking the gurney with them, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The earlier chaos was replaced with a quiet intensity, a focused scene of three: Eloise in escalating pain, Dr. Greaves maintaining clinical control, and Nurse Olivia offering emotional support. Olivia moved to Eloise's side, gently grasping her hand. "Try to steady your breathing," she encouraged, her voice calm despite her own evident nerves. "In and out. You're doing great." Eloise clung to Olivia's hand like a lifeline, trying to focus on her breathing as another contraction built. The pain was all-consuming, unlike anything she had ever experienced before. At the foot of the bed, Dr. Greaves assessed her progress with a practiced eye. "You're at 8 centimeters, Miss Carter," he informed her. "It won't be long now. When you feel the urge to push, let us know." Time became a blur for Eloise, a confusing stretch of pain and brief respites. Nurse Olivia stayed by her side, offering words of encouragement and wiping her brow with a cool cloth. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Eloise experienced a new sensation, an overwhelming urge to push. "I think it's time," she gasped between contractions. Dr. Greaves nodded, positioning himself. "All right, Eloise, when the next contraction comes, I want you to push with everything you've got." Nurse Olivia, support her back. As the contraction built, Eloise bore down with all her might, a primal scream tearing from her throat. The pain was excruciating, as if her body were being split in two. "Good, good," Dr. Greaves encouraged. "The baby's head is crowning," but just as the shoulders began to emerge, Eloise's strength faltered. Exhaustion and pain overwhelmed her, and her pushes grew weaker. "Keep pushing, Eloise," Dr. Greaves urged, his brow furrowed. "You've entered the second stage of labor. We need to get this baby out." Eloise struggled to muster the strength, but her body was failing her. Her breaths came in short gasps, and her efforts weakened further. Dr. Greaves assessed the situation, his voice tight with concern. "We may have a stalled labor. This could lead to complications, including severe bleeding. Nurse Olivia, prepare a Pitocin drip. We need to strengthen her contractions." As Olivia moved quickly to comply, Dr. Greaves explained to Eloise, "We're going to give you medication to augment your labor. If this doesn't work, we may need to use a vacuum extraction. Do I have your consent?" Barely able to focus through the pain, Eloise nodded weakly. "Anything, just help me," she gasped. The Pitocin was administered, but instead of progressing the labor, it seemed only to intensify Eloise's pain. Dr. Greaves's expression grew more concerned. "We need to proceed with vacuum extraction," he decided. "Nurse Olivia, prepare the equipment." As Olivia readied the extractor, Dr. Greaves turned back to Eloise. I'm going to give you pain relief to help manage this. When your next contraction comes, I'll guide the vacuum as you push. Do you understand? Eloise nodded again, desperate for relief. As the medication took effect, a wave of relaxation spread through her, dulling the pain to a bearable level. All right, Eloise, Dr. Greaves said, positioning the vacuum. On your next contraction, push with everything you've got. With a final, monumental effort, Eloise pushed. She felt a strange, sliding sensation, followed by silence. The absence of her baby's cry was deafening. Why isn't he crying? Eloise asked, her voice hoarse and panicked. Dr. Greaves worked quickly, his face a mask of concentration. Nurse Olivia, get the resuscitation equipment ready, he ordered tensely. Eloise tried to sit up to see what was happening, but dizziness overcame her and the room spun. The voices of Dr. Greaves and Nurse Olivia became distant and muffled as darkness began to claim her. Stay with us, Eloise, Dr. Greaves said urgently. We're giving you medication to control the bleeding. Hold on. But Eloise couldn't hold on. Her body gave way to the overwhelming pull of unconsciousness. Here's a rephrased version of your script with subtle adjustments for smoother phrasing and natural flow while retaining your original tone and emotional depth. Eloise blinked at the doctor, her mind struggling to process his words. But why is he so purple? She asked, her voice trembling. And why is he so cold? How long has it been? Dr. Greaves shifted uneasily, exchanging a glance with Nurse Olivia. You were unconscious for about 4 hours after the delivery, he explained gently. Given the circumstances, we had to move him to the morgue shortly after. That would explain his condition. The word morgue hit Eloise like a blow. Her baby, the child she had carried and loved for 9 months, had been alone in that cold, sterile place while she was unconscious. The thought was almost unbearable. I'm truly sorry for your loss, Miss Carter, Dr. Greaves added, his voice softening slightly. Eloise barely heard him. Her attention was fixed on her son. She traced the curve of his nose, the shape of his lips, trying to imagine what he might have looked like alive and healthy. Would he have had her eyes? Her smile? Can I have some time alone with him? She asked, her voice breaking. Dr. Greaves hesitated, his professional demeanor slipping just for a moment. Of course, he said after a pause. But I must insist that Nurse Olivia remain. It's hospital policy, for safety reasons. There have been unfortunate incidents in the past. His detached tone contrasted painfully with Eloise's raw grief. The air in the room felt heavy, charged with unspoken emotion. As Dr. Greaves left, Nurse Olivia moved closer, her presence a silent offering of support. Eloise barely noticed. Her world had shrunk to the small, still figure in her arms. I had so many dreams for you, she whispered, her voice trembling. Your first smile, your first steps. I wondered what your laugh would sound like, what kind of person you'd grow up to be. She spoke as if trying to fill the void with memories that would never be made. Tears streamed down her face as she continued. You know, I was so scared when I first found out about you. My life wasn't in the best place. But then, as time passed, I fell in love with you. I started to dream of our future together. Eloise's fingers traced her son's face, memorizing every detail. The room seemed frozen in time, her grief the only thing alive. Finally, Nurse Olivia broke the silence. The father, she began hesitantly, was it your ex-husband? Eloise looked up, a sad smile playing on her lips. It's complicated, she replied simply. Olivia didn't press further. Instead, she moved a little closer, her quiet presence a comfort, certainly. I can rephrase and adjust the word order while maintaining the tone, style, and natural flow of your original script.